I told you, I told you, I told you. You know, guys, doing this video kind of makes me sad to kind of do this type of video. And it's kind of scary to see the moral decline that we've accepted in today's society. And I'm not just talking about here in America, I'm just talking about all over the world, but there have been some events that have been happening, especially here in America and especially in the westernized nations, who are kind of like the model of the laws and the way societies conduct themselves here in the world, especially, Germany, the UK, America, obviously. So, as you guys can read from the title, we're going to be discussing normalizing pedophilia. Now, if you guys haven't already seen, I'm going to leave a link to the description below from a video that I previously done just months ago talking about LGBTQP, how the pedophiles were now trying to add their acronym to the end of the LGBTQ plus A plus whatever acronym movement, whatever you want to call it. But I did a video concerning that, and of course the LGBT community was up in arms about pedophiles trying to add themselves to. A lot of LGBT people don't want the pedophiles to be added to their movement, or they don't want to recognize it as a sexuality. Well, it seems like that the pedophiles now are going around the LGBT community, and they are starting to normalize pedophilia, or at least trying to come up with an argument for it. Now, this video kind of disturbed me, and this is what prompted me to make my video. I'm really not going to play it. I'm going to go ahead and leave that link in the description box below so you guys can go ahead and check it out, take a look at it, give me your 2 cents, let me know what you think about it. But it's all going to correlate to what I have to say in this video. I was watching a video of another YouTuber, and he mentioned something about pedophilia, and he played some short clips from, I guess there was a TED Talks that happened in Wolfsburg, Germany, and that was a lady. She was trying to give an argument or come up with an argument for pedophilia. Just to kind of break it down for you guys, I'm not going to play the video here. I think it's about 17-18 minutes long, and there's so many talking points in it. I don't want to dissect that video point by point, anything like that. So I'm just going to kind of give you the basic rundown of what was said in the video. And then, like I said, you can actually watch it for yourself and see exactly what is said in the video. But anyway, there's this lady, I can't remember her name at the time. She goes on TED Talks, and she starts out with this guy. His name is Jonas, and he's 19 years old, and she says that Jonas has a secret. And Jonas' secret is that he is a pedophile. He has a sexual attraction to young children. And then she goes into all of this medical research and studies. You know how they usually do. It's the same tactic that they use for the LGBT community, saying that studies show that 1 out of, how many ever people have these feelings and things of that nature. So anyway, towards the end of the video, she starts to talk about this guy Jonas again, and she says that, hey, we shouldn't ban Jonas from society, and we shouldn't ostracize him, or we shouldn't talk bad about Jonas because he has this disorder. Instead, what we need to do is show love and tolerance, and just the basic talking points of whenever someone is trying to push an agenda, trying to say that there's maybe we just need to try to understand this guy who is a pedophile and other people who are like him. Now, of course, this is dangerous because they're still using the same old talking points when they were trying to push the LGBT agenda. Like I said in my last video, LGBTQP, I don't think that people who were actually fighting for the LGBT community were, or they had this sense of trying to make sure that LGBTQ people were actually being protected, to make sure that they weren't getting gay bashed and all of this stuff here, or just trying to promote love and equality for everyone. I don't think that that's what the underlying agenda was. And like I said in that video, I believe that they guinea pig the LGBT community to get to this point now, because pedophilia, this is starting to become a normalized conversation nowadays. And right now we've been distracted with, the president, that we're having things like this whole TED Talks thing come up, and no one's really talking about it except for YouTubers. You're not seeing this on MSNBC or Fox News or anything like that because you're being so distracted. Now, this lady in Germany, as she gives this case for this guy named Jonas, she turns around and she says that, a guy like Jonas needs help and we just need to understand him. And basically what she's saying, that it's okay to be a pedophile and to have these feelings because there's nothing you can do to stop it, but you just can't do pedophilia. And it's the same argument that was used, if you guys remember, when I did my video on Carlton Pearson and his interview with Megyn Kelly, and she said to him, and she reminded him a line that was in the movie when Carlton Pearson was talking to his homosexual friend, who was in the church with him at the time, and when the guy finally came out and told Carlton that he was a homosexual, Carlton then goes and says, it's okay to be gay, but you just can't do gay. So this is now the same argument, but just like Carlton Pearson, he's now changed his mind and said that, hey, you can be gay and do gay now. This is the same argument that is going to be used, or people are going to get to the point to where they're going to say it's okay to be a pedophile and it's okay to do pedophilia. I'm not making this video because I'm trying to warn you about pedophilia. In a way I am, but this is not to try to talk about, pedophilia and talk about people who may be suspected of pedophilia, or, trying to drum up some conspiracy theory, some Alex Jones conspiracy theory or anything like that. Just about all of the videos that I do, I try to bring up topics that will be affecting the church. And this is a video to where I believe this is going to split the church even more, because we know that pedophilia has been happening in the church. I personally know of two families. One where the father, he is currently serving time in jail due to charges of pedophilia. There is another family that I know where one of their children has been, I think he was reprimanded for touching someone else's child or something like that. And then you also have the famous case of the guy Josh Duggar from 19 Kids and Counting, that was on TLC, and they snatched their show off of the air after they found out that Josh Duggar, around 15, I think he's like in his 30s now, but he was like 15 or something like that, where he was charged for pedophilia. Although he was underage at the time, I think the little girls that he allegedly touched were pretty young girls, and I think he wrote one of the little girls a love letter or something like that. The reason why I say that this is going to become another split in the church is because when they lower the age of consent, and trust me, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. I mean, you can fight against it. You can say whatever you want. They're going to end up lowering the age of consent. And what's going to happen is that you're going to have those who may have been charged for one of these, for pedophilia, crimes of pedophilia, and this person may be a minister, a preacher, or a teacher who may have a congregation. And if they turn around and lower the age of consent to where the victim of this crime is actually older than what the new law is going to be once they lower the age of consent, then that person can turn around and be pardoned by the state. It's just like now with the whole marijuana thing. I mean, when they decriminalized marijuana, there was a lot of people who got pardoned because they were like, well, hey, how are you going to say that marijuana is legal now, but I'm still sitting in prison for dealing marijuana? So the same thing is going to happen. Once they lower the age of consent, all of those guys who are sitting in prison and who have been convicted of these crimes, they're going to end up going free because they're going to say, well, hey, you guys are lowered the age of consent lower than the victim that I was allegedly touching or convicted of engaging in sexual acts with. So then when that person is released and they're pardoned, and if they want to take up another position in ministry, then you're going to have some people on the left that's going to say, we think that this guy should be back in ministry. He should be teaching. Because at the time he did break the law, but he's been pardoned. So now since the law has changed, now it's like that law is not even on his record. Now he was within his legal right. And then you're going to have some people who are on the right who are going to say that, I don't care, this person has violated God's law by engaging in this act, and we don't think that this person should be teaching. And it's just going to be another divide in the church. And then you're going to have those who I believe are going to engage in these acts. And I wouldn't even be surprised if you have some of these men, once they lower the age of consent, they end up leaving their wives and their children to go be with a child. And they will be in their legal right to do so once they lower that age. And then you're going to have to deal with that. Then we're going to have to deal with men who has never been married. You know, you turn around, you get a guy who's like in his 50s, he decides that he wants to marry a 13-year-old girl. Then you're going to have to deal with that. How the church is going to deal with that. So there's going to be a whole hodgepodge of just issues that we're going to have to deal with concerning this new issue, this new fight that is about to take place in the body of Christ. And another thing that is concerning is that we don't know how far they are with accomplishing this. Because I was talking to a brother at church, and he says, yeah, you know, we may see this lady on TED Talks talking about pedophilia and, you know, it should be legalized and all of that. But in all reality, they could be a heck of a lot further than what we think. We may think that, oh, they're just trying to, you know, come up with an argument. They may already have the pens ready to sign on a dotted line to push the whole pedophilia, lowering the age of consent law. They could be, for all we know, that they could be waiting on a couple more votes. Somebody could be on vacation. They can say, well, hey, as soon as I come back off of vacation, I'm just going to come and sign those papers. Because if you think about it, for them to start pushing this pedophile agenda, I mean, it's just like with the homosexual agenda. When they started to try to push for gay marriage, and the first thing they started doing is that they tried to normalize homosexuality. Oh, it's okay. It's all normal. Everyone, you know, should be able to love who they want to love. And everyone in the church and you know, even people who weren't in the church was trying to fight against, you know, homosexuality being in schools and all of that stuff. But they went on with it. And then when homosexuals started saying that they wanted to get married, and people were just like, no, we should be against this. I mean, it was like, what, maybe a year or two later, after the whole big, you know, kerfuffle about homosexuals being married and stuff like that, it was like, it wasn't long after that argument that they were able to marry. And now we're starting to see the same pattern. We're starting to see people come out, they're trying to normalize this, and people are talking about it openly, saying that, hey, you know, we just got to understand these type of people. We don't know how far they are. We may be the ones that are lagging behind. And I just saw this video, and apparently it took place a couple of months ago, but I just saw this last week, and there's this guy named Nathan Larson, and I think he's running for Senate or Congress or something in Virginia, and he's openly talking about pedophilia. He's a guy saying that, hey, it should be up to the father if he decides that he wants to sleep with his daughters. He is saying that if he was to get in office, that he would be an advocate for pedophilia. And you have to think about this. Who talks like that when they already don't have something lined up? This is that we don't know how close they are to passing this law. And I believe that this has been talked about for a long time, and it's been kept under wraps in the shadows. And now it's starting to come out because they're just like, whatever you say and whatever you do now, you can't stop it because we're so far ahead that you can't stop what is about to take place. You can't stop us from actually putting this into law. And these are very scary times that we're living in, especially us who have children. But, like I said, church, we really have to get ready. Because I really think that this is something that is coming down the line soon. And for the past couple of years, what we've been seeing is especially the LGBT community, they've been trying to normalize the whole LGBT thing in the schools. They've been targeting children. And I believe that this has been a calculated attack. Because instead of a lot of people in the LGBT community saying, let's just promote adult sexuality. Let's leave the kids out of it. Let's wait until they're old enough to start learning about the birds and the bees, until they are able to start making these decisions for themselves. They've been infiltrating the schools, preschool, like they have I showed you guys in my video LGBTQP, where they are having the drag queen story hour, where they're talking to these babies. I mean, we're literal babies. People are bringing their preschoolers to watch a drag queen read to these kids. And they're trying to normalize it. And they're putting this stuff in their curriculums for sexual education, gay sex. They've been infiltrating the schools for a while. And now they got these drag queen kids, these little boys walking around dressed like drag queens. And if anyone knows what the whole drag queen thing was about, it was about these men, and it still is. It's men who dress up as women, and they try to be as, curvy and provocative sexually to have the appearance of a woman, but they are men. From what I've heard, people who actually have attended these drag queen clubs or drag queen shows, it's men in there who are trying to pick up men who are dressed like women. And now you got kids who are going into these same clubs they're not dressed like little girls. These are not little boys dressed like little girls. These are little boys dressed like miniaturized women. They got all of the makeup on. They're dressing in dresses that are showing off their shapes and all of that type of stuff. And you think that they're not going to lower the age of consent? We have no idea how far they are. We can see this in the next election of lowering the age of consent. But see, one thing I do want to say to you parents, what are your kids watching on those tablets and those phones that you're giving them? These kids have so much access to a lot of these sites, to a lot of this information. Pornhub.com. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I heard about quite a few children, okay? And these are homeschooled kids. Some of these kids go to public school, but they have been watching their parents caught them watching pornographic material on their phones and tablets. Parents had no idea. And we're talking about preteens. We're not talking about 14, 15-year-old children. We're talking about children between the ages of 10 and 13. And they're out here watching whatever, saying whatever. There are some people who are just so wrapped up in all of this political stuff that's going on. People are so worried about Donald Trump and what he's doing. So many people are worried about what the Democrats are doing and trying to make this country a socialist country. There are so many people wrapped up in, whose theology is correct in the church and who's holding what laws and what Sabbaths. And no one is discipling their children. Satan does not play fair. The enemy doesn't play fair. He's not coming after you. He is coming after the children. He's coming after those who are coming after you. He wants to make it to where when these children grow up, they're not going to know who God is. That's what he's striving for. So therefore, when that next generation or the next two generations come, they're not going to know what it's like to have the Holy Spirit. He wants it to be to where they know nothing about God, to where they're going to choose to reject God. And everyone thinks that, taking the mark of the beast and all of that, there's going to be a bunch of soldiers and stuff running into your home and, snatching Bibles out of your hand and all of that stuff, and implanting microchips and stuff in your hand. That's fairy tale. The enemy doesn't operate like that. The way the enemy operates, because he tried operating like that before, and all it did was make the church grow. So now this is a new tactic. The tactic is to keep parents like you distracted so the enemy can move in on your child while you're distracted and let them live in a godless society, to reject God once they get of a certain age. All because you got distracted. You were so distracted with everything else, with your reality shows. You were distracted with, some of you in the church have been so distracted with trying to reach other people, which is a good thing. We're supposed to be out spreading the gospel, trying to reach people. But some of you have dedicated so much time and effort trying to reach people, trying to really get out there and make a name for yourself, and your children have no idea who God is. That's why a lot of children, when they graduate high school and they go into college for the first couple of years, they're atheists after that, or they've rejected the faith. I think they say only maybe about 20% of millennials go to church now, and these millennials are starting to have kids. What do you think is going to happen when you got about 70%, 75% of millennials who don't go to church, and they're having children, and they're raising their children with all of these electronics? Your 8-9-year-old child has the newest iPhone, has the newest tablet. Some of you are still playing video games, or you're on your phone. Some of you are got your heads buried so far into your own phone that you're not even checking your own child's phone. You don't know what they're looking at. And all the time, this is happening in plain sight, but you're not aware of it. So what I'm telling you parents to do today is to get out there, be involved in your children's lives, know what they're looking at, check their cell phones, put those parental restrictions on it, because the enemy is out there and he is real. And like I said, they're going to lower this age of consent. They're going to do it, hands down. There's too many people who got too much money backing this. It's been happening for years. And as soon as someone give us some type of pushback, we just, okay, yeah, you could go ahead, do what you want to do. They done got into the schools. They've gotten into the child TV shows and networks. And now this is the last phase right here, to where they're going to lower the age of consent. And they're going to say, hey, love is love. I love your child. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to make you aware of what's going on. Prepare yourselves. Prepare your family. Disciple your family. Know exactly what your children are doing in your household. Make sure that your children have a heart for Christ. Right now, the message of Jesus is not the most popular, but he is the only way that we are going to be able to keep our families out of the hands of the enemy. A lot of people may say, well, I don't need, you got some good advice, but I don't need Jesus. We're going to see how much you're not going to need Jesus in these upcoming years, especially on the day of judgment. Anyway, guys, that's the video. Like, rate, share, comment, subscribe, and you guys have a blessed day.